Welcome back to the Den of Nerds. I am Josh. We need to talk about these new Chris Claremont leaks. These are for Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, possibly. And you probably heard about this. Chris Claremont is a longtime Marvel comic book writer, and recently at a Comic-Con, he popped the fuck off. There's just basically no other way to say it. He went crazy. So we have several different, incredibly interesting rumors to talk about for Avengers Doomsday and for Avengers Secret Wars. And yes, some of this stuff does line up with other established rumors. So basically it could be real. Like, this is crazy, but Chris Claremont might have just told us way too much information about these movies. However, before we begin breaking all this shit down, it's probably worth mentioning that it's also possible Chris Claremont does not know what he's talking about. Yes, he has connections at Marvel Studios. Yes, he's more plugged into the average person, but if you actually watch the entire panel where he's talking about this stuff, he seems a bit confused. He's trying to recall stuff. It does seem like he is actually talking, or at least referring to things that he literally did hear, but it's not as though he came out and was like, I know this for sure, here's what's happening. I mean, it kind of is like, I don't know, guy. You tell me, chat, like, what do you think? Do you think this fucking guy knows what he's talking about here? Because the crazy thing is, like, a lot of this does line up with the other. Okay, all right, let's just get into it. Okay, so the first thing that's going on here is he's talking about Robert Downey Jr. coming back as an evil Iron Man and regular Iron Man, and he talks about how that's confusing. And the general tone from Chris Claremont during this whole, like, expelling of crazy information is that, like, this is a little ridiculous, that the next two Avenger movies are going to be ridiculous, that Marvel Studios is getting the OG Avengers to play, like, all of the characters, like a ton of characters, and that they are utilizing the X-Men, but they're also making us wait for the X-Men movies, and Chris just doesn't like that. But going back to the RDJ, Doctor Doom, Evil Iron Man thing, he refers to him as Evil Iron Man, which is interesting, but he also says that Downey is playing two other characters. And that's nuts, man. Like, that's crazy. Are we getting multiple Iron Man variants? It seems like we might be, and it's possible that the Victor Von Doom Iron Man variant is just one of several, which would be pretty crazy, man. There's some wild stuff they're cooking with Iron Man and with variants in general. We're going to get into that. But before we get any further, I do want to mention an established rumor that the Avengers Forever run, and I'm talking about the stuff from the Jason Aaron Avengers run, not like way back in the day. That Avengers Forever run, which does connect to Avenger Prime Loki, it connects to Avengers a Million BC and some of the stuff they were building with that. It also connects to a Cabal, the multiversal masters of evil, which are run by an evil version of Doctor Doom, like the worst, most evil version of him. And it also saw a ton of different variants from throughout the multiverse. So one of the main characters in that story is a Tony Stark that actually became Ant-Man instead of Iron Man. And he's also still an alcoholic, and he's really fun. He's like a really fun character. But the point I'm trying to make is, with these rumors from Chris Claremont as far as RDJ and him being Doctor Doom, and these old established rumors that the Avengers Forever stuff is going to be adapted, it's starting to seem like that could be a huge part of this movie, like a way bigger part of this movie than we thought. But anyway, let's keep going, because I'll put more thoughts at the end of the video once we get through more of this stuff. So the next thing he says is Chris Evans will be playing a young / evil Captain America. He calls him Captain Hydra. And yeah, he's talking about Hydra Captain America. Now, this is a long established rumor. Now, the one thing I want to say about this is it kind of seemed like, again, he was saying that Chris Evans will play multiple roles, like a young version of Cap, an evil version of Cap, and Captain America, which probably just means like modern Cap, maybe even old Cap, right? And again, if you think back to the Avengers Forever flavor, this is probably what he's talking about. And again, it's kind of shocking. Next thing he's talking about is Elizabeth Olsen, and he makes reference to the fact that she said she wasn't coming back for like over a year, and yet everybody knew she was coming back, and she is back, and she's going to be playing Scarlet Witch, but also she's going to be playing the good version of Wanda, whatever the fuck that means. I'm not sure what that means, but again, multiple versions of Wanda. That's really interesting. It ties to the Avengers Forever stuff, but it also ties into Multiverse of Madness. I mean, Wanda was literally scouring the multiverse, and there were all kinds of versions of herself. They were all prophesied to either rule or destroy the cosmos. Most of them actually had their kids, which is wild, and she felt super salty about that. She said, why don't I have my kids? Everybody else has their kids. Look at all these Wandas with kids. What the fuck? So anyway, it's kind of interesting here. Now, to add to this Wanda bit, of course, we've heard that Wanda is a huge part of Doomsday. Maybe not as much in Secret Wars, because I do think Doom will be married to Sue Storm and not Wanda. However, However, I have been told that he will have a romantic thing with a Wanda variant in Doomsday. So this all kind of tracks together. You see what I mean? So like Wanda's going to be a big part of Doomsday, and this good version of Wanda, is this just a variant that's with the Doctor Doom, the RDJ Doctor Doom? It's pretty crazy because, again, like maybe Chris Claremont's just popping off, but this all tracks with established rumors. Now, one of the other things he says is Psylocke is coming back, but the way he speaks about this, he says that it's not going to be Asian Psylocke. If you didn't know, Psylocke has this kind of really weird and interesting convoluted comic book history where she is either a Japanese woman or a British woman. It's kind of a meme. British or Japanese Psylocke. They're both super sexy. They're both awesome. I like both. Why not both? But what Chris says is that Psylocke will be coming back, but it's going to be not the Japanese version, meaning probably the British version, which could connect to the Captain Britain Corps. Again, this is a whole fucking thing in comics. I'm going to TLDR it for you. I'm going to try my best just to simplify this. The Captain Britain Corps, they kind of police the multiverse, okay? So they have a citadel in between time and shit, and they police the universe, the multiverse and time and shit like that. They're really crazy. They're way more than just like British Captain America. And so technically British Psylocke could be connected to that. Again, it's very convoluted from the comics, but you can sort of see the motivation for doing this. Another thing that he says is that Femke Jenkins is coming back, and she's going to be the Phoenix Force. Okay, he doesn't say Jean Grey, although that's obvious. It's going to be Jean Grey. But he says the Phoenix Force. Now, not a lot of people are picking up on this, but I think that's so fascinating because there are various versions of Jean you could have. But what he's saying is that you're going to get full-on Phoenix Jean Grey. Now, how the fuck are the Avengers supposed to be able to fight against the X-Men if they have Phoenix Force Jean Grey? And I keep going back to this Avengers Forever thing because it's like, well, you would get 4 or 5 Iron Man variants from throughout the multiverse. That's pretty fucking good. That's a lot of weapons. I just did a video talking about how important Doom or Tony Stark would be to helping the Avengers defeat the X-Men. Watch that video. I went way too in depth. I was way too nerdy about it, but it's like true. Like one time Iron Man built a gun and he blasted the Phoenix Force in the face and separated it into 5 lower powered pieces. Like Iron Man is that guy. Anyway, the point there is like, it seems like we're getting the craziest version of these different characters because Claremont said you're going to have 20 to 40 A+ level comic book characters played a lot by the OG X-Men cast and the OG Avengers cast. So that's pretty wild, right? Now, there's one other thing that he mentions here, and it's kind of a big spoiler. He says that Wolverine is going to kill somebody really important, and I'm assuming he means in Doomsday. And I gotta say, I hate to be that guy, but I think it's gonna be the Phoenix. I think he's gonna kill Phoenix Jean, kind of like he did in that one X-Men movie. And part of the reason I think this is because these two statements by Claremont were kind of consecutive. Like he talks about Jean, he talks about X-Men and Wolverine killing somebody important. It just feels like maybe that was still on his mind and he was finding a way to say it without totally giving it away. But also, as we have mentioned before, Phoenix Force versus the Avengers, that's going to be crazy. One of the only people that could stand against her might be Wanda, which is really interesting. And so what I think could be happening here is a Wanda versus Jean fight, and Wolverine kills one of them to stop the fight because it could like break reality or something like that. But we'll see. Wolverine could kill a lot of different people, man. It's actually what he does, and he is the best at what he does. So what Chris has just given away is kind of mind-blowing. It does bring a whole bunch of more speculation and fun into the mix, but it's also fair to say that this does seem like a lot. And I think Chris's point is like, this might just be too much too fast, and it's just wild. Why wouldn't we just build into X-Men right now? Like, what are we doing here with all of these Avengers? He's very critical of using the OG cast in multiple roles to like fill out a big list of characters. And maybe you share some of those concerns too, and maybe some of the stuff Chris said and reported or leaked or whatever you want to say, maybe some of that stuff has you concerned as well. Whatever you're thinking about this, it's all good. Let me know in the comment section below. I personally find myself getting excited for this stuff, but that's just kind of how I do it. I hear this stuff, I get excited, I think about the best version, and then I'm inevitably let down by what Marvel Studios does. Maybe not this time, though. Maybe this time the Russos are going to go all the way. As I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.